We're live. Oh my God.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live! Fuck it! I'll write it and we'll do it live! We'll do it live! Fucking thing sucks!
In 5, 4, 3.
Hello, and welcome to the very 8th episode of Fuck It, We're Doing It Live. As always, this is a live podcast, unless you're listening to the recording, so that's you, the audience, you can and should participate. You can always call me directly at 713-367-1534. That's 713-367-1534. That number is going to be in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen for the whole episode, so if you've got something to say, just go ahead and call in. Nolan is here tonight to talk about the new video game action movie, Uncharted, starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. He actually missed it because he had a ticket, but he had to attend a neo-Nazi rally, so he was unable to see the movie. But I saw it, and I have, a little bit to say. We'll also be talking about video game movies in general, what we have seen, what we will see, and what we'd like to see. Jackass 4 has held the 2022 movie title belt for 2 weeks now, so stick around to see if anything can beat it. We have actually pushed Top 25 Dead or Alive fetish trivia back to next week in favor of something more relevant to tonight's episode. Our trivia game tonight is called Twitch Taboo. Twitch has banned all games with the adults only rating from Twitch, but they also have a separate list of games that are not rated adults only, but are still banned. So, in this trivia game tonight, I will name 5 different video games, and you have to tell me whether or not they are banned on Twitch's list of banned video games. If you get them all right, you could win the contents of tonight's swear jar. That's right, every time I curse, that's another 25 cents in the jar for you to win. We're already up to 15 quarters, which is $3.75, but don't worry, that number is only getting higher. We'll be doing Twitch Taboo trivia at the end of the show tonight, so stick around. I'm going to be playing some royalty-free music for y'all tonight, a little transition stuff, especially when I'm waiting for y'all to call in. Apologies to those of y'all that are going to be listening to the recording, but I do have to edit out a lot of music before I post this. So if you want to hear some great tunes from our house band, the Truck Stop Lizard People, you're going to have to tune in live on Twitch every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. They mostly play Mark Rebier covers that I've downloaded from YouTube, but they are working on some original music. Speaking of which, we have a special premiere of a brand new song tonight. It's going to be the new QAnon anthem, I think. It's called Lost Without Q. That'll be coming later tonight. And we made it through last week's show without any sound issues. The video was a different story, so we're going to put the music reel on hold until I figure out the lag. Anyway, let me know in the chat if anything sounds off tonight. The crime hotline is back this week. If you've ever thought about committing a crime, give us a call. I will help you plan it out. If you ever fantasize about stealing a car or the Declaration of Independence, if you ever wanted to hijack a bus or an airboat, or maybe you just want to watch the world burn, whatever it is, give us a call, 713-367-1534, and I will do my best to help you execute your vision and your victims without spending a minute behind bars. We're just getting started here. I'm drinking absinthe tonight because it's sterile and I like the taste. Stick around after the break for our crime hotline and some talk about Uncharted, but first, let's get a word from our sponsors.
Has this ever happened to you?
My grandma died. She didn't leave me any money.
Then come on down to Burke & Hare's Mortuary Services. Here at Burke & Hare, we specialize in extracting maximum value from your stingiest relatives. We're not like those other funeral homes that donate bodies to science for free. From gold teeth to vital organs, we stop at nothing to make sure you get the inheritance that you deserve. But wait, there's more. For an additional payment of $19.95, Burke & Hare Mortuary Services will give you an urn of our patented imitation human ashes, so none of your greedy cousins will figure out what you did. Burke & Hare Mortuary Services. What do they care? They're dead.
And now I'm going to open up our crime hotline. If you ever fantasize about mugging, thugging, death hugging, or any other sort of criminal mischief, give us a call at 713-367-1534. That's 713-367-1534. Whatever it is, we can help you get away with it. So give us a call.
This is Deepfake Kevin Harlan, and you are listening to Fuck It, We're Doing It Live. We're doing it live.
Oh. The line's ringing. Who could it be?
Call from.
Pretty.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
I was hoping for some advice on committing a crime.
Yeah, you've reached the right place. This is the crime hotline. What can I help you with?
Well, you see, I would love to commit a crime, but I'm not quite sure which.
Interesting. Okay, well, that depends. You know, the right crime for the right person, it varies. So, I guess the real question is, what would you want out of a crime? Money? You know? Violence? I don't know.
I guess for it to be illegal.
Okay, just simply to be illegal?
Yeah, you know, like a crime.
Right, and you wouldn't want to get arrested, right?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the crime.
Do you want to have any interactions with the police? Do you want to get involved in some kind of chase? Or
I guess
are we
if
just
I'm gonna
looking
do a
to
crime,
break the law, walk away?
I mean, I'm prepared to do time.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, if you're prepared to do time, there's a lot of options here. You can always, you know, one of the easiest things to do, one of the cheapest for sure, because it doesn't require anything but your own body, is you just walk on down to the playground, you know. Just, you know, take your pants off, one-way ticket to jail. So that's
really?
a start.
Just like that?
Yeah, and, you know, it's completely free. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to, you know, deal with any weapons or anything like that. No blood. Very clean. Very simple. Very easy. Extremely affordable.
Oh, wonderful. There's a park down the street. I can go do that now.
Excellent. Oh, we have a suggestion in the chat. Jacqueline says you could also urinate. I think that is a good option, but if you're really looking to go for it, exposing yourself to children is definitely, you know, higher up on the criminal scale than peeing in public. Oh, Nolan wants to weigh in here. What do you got, Nolan?
Can I make a suggestion?
Please do.
Yeah, think bigger. You know, think
bigger?
streaking. Yeah, well, if you're going to do time, right, you want to expose yourself to the largest possible stage.
Right, so, largest possible stage to expose yourself.
So World Cup or the Olympics.
Interesting. You could, okay, here's what you could do. If you remember the guy who streaked in the Super Bowl last year, you're kind of double dipping there because he was streaking and also committing some kind of, I guess, fraud. He had bet a ton of money that there would be a streaker during the Super Bowl, and then, you know, he made it happen himself. So, you know, but as I said on the crime hotline previously, one thing you don't want to do when you commit crimes is commit two crimes. That's the easiest way to get caught. If you only commit one crime, it's a lot harder to get a handle on it.
Okay, interesting. So one crime.
One crime at a time. That's our motto here at the Crime Hotline.
So if I go to the park and expose myself and there's two children, does that count as two crimes?
No, I'm not sure. We should really get a legal expert on here. If anybody is a lawyer out there,
are you not a legal expert?
Give us a call. I'm not a legal expert. I'm a criminal expert. There's, you know, a slight difference.
I see. Two sides of the same coin.
Right. And so, okay, so are we trying to get away with public exposure here, or are we just accepting the consequences?
I'd like it to be known that it was illegal.
Okay.
I'd like there to be witnesses.
Well, that's the whole idea of public exposure, right? Is that there are plenty of witnesses.
I want the renown.
Yeah, you want the infamy. Okay, well, I think we've given you a lot to think about, given you a couple action items here. Thank you for calling into the crime hotline. Yeah, get started on it. Don't let this come back to us at all, please. If they ask, I don't know you. You don't know me. We never spoke.
Right. Gotcha.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for calling in, and feel free to call back and let us know how that goes.
Yep. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one. All right. Well, we got some criminals out there tonight. Some people on the prowl. All right. Well, I think we're going to move on now to our movie talk. I'm going to play a little bit of music real quick just because I kind of feel like jamming out. So, here we go.
This is Deepfake Kevin Harlan, and you are listening to Fuck It, We're Doing It Live. We're doing it live.
All right, and we are back. All right, Nolan is here, right, Nolan?
Hello.
Yep, he's here. All right, and we're going to talk about Uncharted now, which is the newest big release, shall we say. As you know, we here on the podcast try to hit every major release as they come out. Last week we had Death on the Nile. The week before that, Jackass 4. And this week, Uncharted, which, this January, February section of the year is usually reserved for, what we in the biz call total shit fires of movies. The movies that don't really get a lot of play, that studios think will fail, that they don't want to release in the summer blockbuster season, in the Christmas season, and so they dump them here. I will say, I have seen a lot of great movies in the January-February slot. Specifically, I remember Grand Budapest Hotel came out in the February slot, and that was excellent. But Uncharted, especially for a movie that's been, in production and pre-production and sort of limbo for 10 plus years, I think at this point, I guess they execute. It's a very middle of the road action movie to me. Like it's, you know exactly what to expect. You walk in, there's treasure hunting, there's guns, there's some hot girls, there's some hot guys, there's, some pirate stuff, there's some sword fighting. It's all in all just it's a good time. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. And it's, I've only played the 4th Uncharted game, but tonally, I felt it was pretty faithful to the games.
So the Uncharted games, I haven't played too many of them. I played a little bit of the first or second one, and then I played a little bit of the 4th one. But as far as I understand it, they have kind of 3 main qualities to it, which is charming personalities and the main kind of 2 characters, but mostly Nathan Drake, right?
Right.
They have these massive cinematic set pieces in the actual game itself.
Right. That you play through that aren't cutscenes like they would be in a typical movie. You play through the big action sequences in the Uncharted games.
Yeah, you are Indiana Jones running from the rolling boulder.
Right.
Which is what
really sets them apart as games, I think, is most games, the huge action, high pressure scenes, they won't necessarily put you in them. They will have you say like build up to it and like hit X to jump off the building and then cutscene, right? Uncharted makes you play through the whole action sequence, which is what I think makes it such a fun game.
Yeah, and which was what you would think would make it such a fun movie. But the third element that, as I understand it, is in the games is like, a sense of humor in terms of like the quippiness and kind of like, it's not supposed to be very quite serious, I don't think. Call in and correct me if I'm wrong. But
no, they're very swashbuckling, like kind of, roguish kind of charm and swagger to them.
Yeah. So how does it fare on those 3 fronts? So from action set pieces to characterization, at least like enjoyable characterization, and then a sense of kind of knowing humor and a little, like you said, like a roguish charm.
Right. So Tom Holland plays Nathan Drake in this movie, and I personally have never really got Tom Holland right. I mean, it doesn't help that you and I are both, shall we say, Marvel deniers.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so you and I are both Marvel deniers, and Tom Holland is definitely best known for being the MCU Spider-Man rather than the Spider-Man like Tobey Maguire. And I've always felt like, yeah, sure, like he's a good type for Peter Parker, but he's almost like too boyish, you know? And so I really thought that he was a bad casting decision as Nathan Drake. However, having seen the movie now, I wouldn't say I'm coming around on Tom Holland, but I would say he kind of pulls it off in a way that you would not expect. And I mean, it kind of fits with the Nathan Drake character. He's charming. He's a great guy. He's your classic hero until, it becomes best for him to act in self-interest. And then he's cutthroat. He's a pickpocket. He's, all about that. And I really didn't think that Tom Holland was going to be able to play the kind of asshole side of Nate. But he was able to pull it off a decent amount. And that surprised me pleasantly, I'll say. In terms of set pieces, they're good. I mean, this movie had a pretty huge budget. What was it? $130 million, I believe, 120 something. And they definitely get bang for their buck there. I mean, there's the opening of the movie is like, cargo trailing out of a plane, and there's like Mission Impossible type sequences in this. But also they feel pretty true to the game. Like, you can kind of, how in some things you can see the writing? Like, my dad was watching Dope Sick the past few days, and that is a show where you can see the writing the whole time. You know exactly what the writers are trying to accomplish, and they don't go about it in a very subtle way. They don't lead you to conclusions. They tell you conclusions, right?
Right.
So in Uncharted, you can't see the writing, but you can see the video game. Like, you can see the source material, but it works in a pretty positive way.
What do you mean? Because, I mean, it's interesting just because it's like a weird cycle of influences, because like clearly the Uncharted games are taking from like Indiana Jones and those types of things, those blockbusters, making it into an interactive form, and then now it's coming back out the other end into another video, you would think it would just be a reference to Indiana Jones. So what do you mean by this middle step? What do you mean by it feels like a video game?
Well, okay, so it reminded me a little bit of a movie that I saw last year, Resident Evil Raccoon City. I saw it with Phil, actually, and we both felt coming out of that movie that it felt like a video game because it was shot like a video game. Like a lot of it was shot like a video game cutscene. Just the way that the camera panned, the way that it moved, the framing, all felt like a video game cutscene, which made a lot of sense and was one of my favorite parts of Resident Evil Raccoon City because it is based on a video game, and it felt a little gamey. And in Uncharted, in the opening scene especially, which is great because that's when they need to bring you into the movie, there's a good amount of like POV shots, with Nate's hands on either side that look pretty much exactly like it looks in the Uncharted games when you're playing, because it is a first-person game, right?
Right.
And I thought that was a really excellent touch. And then, of course, the fonts and the inner titles saying like where they are and when it is are the exact same as the game, which was also a nice touch. It felt like at the beginning I came in skeptical, but they do a very good job of reeling you in as a fan of the game. As a moviegoer that had never played the game or heard of it, I don't know how well that would have worked. But as a fan of at least the fourth game, and I assume I would have a lot of fun playing the other three, but as someone who's familiar with the fonts, the cliches, the style of the IP, I think it did a very good job of bringing you into the movie and making you realize this is a movie made by and for people who played the game.
But that's interesting because that kind of, we'll get to this later, but that goes against what I think would be the objective, because you're never gonna, I don't think, really, and depending on the size of the fan base, you're never gonna make back 120 mil, at least domestically.
They did globally already. It's already profitable worldwide.
I know, but like, let's
it had a 40 mil opening weekend at tail end of COVID, which, like, unless you're Fast and Furious or Marvel, is not too shabby.
I guess, but it's still definitely not a six. This is not like a barnstorming.
This was a huge budget, big IP. Like I said, it's been in development for years and years and years. Like, the entire video game series finished before the development of this movie finished.
And on top of that, you would think that there would be like some type of capitalization then on like the fan base itself. But
right.
I mean, it's not like I know anybody that's played this game that is psyched to see this movie.
I was a little psyched to see this movie. I mean, I had low expectations, mostly because of Tom Holland, as fair or unfair as that might be. But I won't say it exceeded my expectations, but it met my standards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, your standards are...
My standards are very, very low.
Yeah.
And that's come from 2 years of being psychologically abused by the movie theater and just shown complete dog shit.
So you're saying this is pretty good for...
This is solid. This is
pretty good
solid, period. This is solid, period. Not for anything. This is a solid action movie.
Sure.
Okay? I mean, it feels just kind of classic. It's not Indiana Jones. It's not as good as Indiana Jones. The scope is not nearly as wide as Indiana Jones. It's treasure hunting. No Nazis or global geopolitical implications or anything like that. No Ark of the Covenant. This is just guys looking for gold. There's some interesting Magellan history, which actually that is one of my other favorite parts of the Uncharted games. Even though I assume the history that's in them is like totally made up or like, altered to fit the story. But the pirate history that you get is incredibly interesting. The amount of lore that they're able to pack into just side conversations is really great. And I think that they did an okay job of that in this movie. It felt a little exposition dumpy at times, but I don't know. It felt like they did okay.
I mean, you don't have to spoil this question, but
right.
I
wouldn't consider anything that happens in this movie a spoiler.
I know, but
this is not a twisty, plot-driven, crazy, mindfuck movie. I know. A bunch of guys go treasure hunting, a bunch of girls go treasure hunting, bunch of betrayal, a bunch of guns, a bunch of cool shit. I wouldn't say there's any spoilers that I could possibly give. Especially because the game's been out for God knows how long.
It was more of just being respectful in terms of like, I don't know, something crazy could happen at the end. But, I mean, just in the regard, does it seem very clear, like they're leaving it open for sequels?
Oh, absolutely. There is 100% a scene at the end, an after-credit scene, classic,
right.
An after-credit scene of, well... I'll just say that it definitely sets up the sequels, especially knowing the context of the fourth game and how big of a role the character in the final after-credit scene plays, which if you've played the fourth game, you can probably guess who I'm talking about, but also if you've played the fourth game, that's not a spoiler. But it's definitely set up for sequels, which I am not sure about. The games have sequels and everything, and I mean, I do think that at least as a moviegoer, I am ready for a new, fun, swashbuckling action franchise that isn't just guys and cars and guns and, like, gritty violence, Yeah,
you're looking for Pirates of the Caribbean all over again.
Right. It's definitely, it feels like that sort of Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, just like a fun adventure movie.
Yeah, but the thing about those, just in particular, is like I can't think of too many of those franchises that don't nail it on the first one and then figure it out as they go.
Right. You're right.
So if this is that, I mean, if it's not like the best one,
they definitely did not
nail
sign. It. They did not nail it.
Yeah.
But like I said, my expectations were incredibly low, and especially like it's not just Tom Holland, it's video game movies in general, which is something we'll talk about later, have generally been extremely disappointing. And I will say this was refreshing because it was not. And I mean, it's Uncharted is definitely one of the easiest video games to adapt into a movie because like you said, it's basically Indiana Jones the game. So you make Indiana Jones the game the movie. And I haven't played the first one, so I couldn't say how much they directly ripped from it. But having played the fourth one, knowing how the cutscenes sound and how the game feels, it definitely felt like, they just ripped the first game, which is what they should have done. The games are incredibly cinematic. That's part of the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see where this goes because bringing it compare the closest comparison is Tomb Raider, which we'll get to later, which is having its own kind of sequel-ish issue at the moment.
The requel?
Yeah, we'll get to it. But
okay.
It is really interesting to see because especially if this somehow gains traction and becomes more of a hit, I could definitely see like a bigger push for it, a bigger push for the next one, bigger budgets, all of that kind of stuff. But this is also definitely a movie that has to crush at the box office.
Yeah, and it's not really crushing necessarily, but it's not doing too bad.
Yeah, but I don't even know if they can afford, not to do too bad. At the end of the day,
I
also
mentioned after opening weekend, it's already profitable worldwide.
It's 120 million worldwide. That means it hasn't even come close
140
to on a $120 million budget.
Yeah,
that means it has to go.
It has to go 150% to at least be a hit, quote unquote. But
yeah,
for COVID,
50 or triple. Yeah,
for COVID and the streaming era, being simply profitable, I think, not necessarily the best you can ask for, but that is success. At the state that the movie theater industry is in.
I don't really see this movie as like I would be very, very surprised if this movie even comes to the number one. I mean, maybe next week, but the week after that,
it was number one this weekend.
I know, but I'm saying this should be the weekend
it retains. Well,
yeah,
dude,
I don't see this.
This is nothing coming out this weekend.
Yeah, but
I could 100% see Uncharted keeping it.
Unless
can't Marry Me blows up for some reason, it's gonna be Uncharted.
I just don't. It's not gonna gather like a word of mouth.
Well, no, but it's just simply through inertia. I mean, there's nothing coming out next weekend. Nothing coming out really major that could topple it until Batman on March 3rd.
I know, like next week I could see it, but the week after that, I don't.
Yeah,
think
well, as soon as competition shows up, this movie's cooked.
And even if it is the highest next week, I want to see the percentage drop off because I don't see it going up.
Right. No, I mean there won't be strong word of mouth for this necessarily.
Yeah.
I will say, in terms of like, why would you make this movie when the games are so cinematic already, and it's basically already a series of movies, but better because you can play through all of the action sequences and they really nail the gameplay. What I will say is, granted, I go to matinees on weekdays, so the average age in my theaters typically does trend higher than usual. But the average age in my theater today, this morning when I went to see Uncharted, was a lot higher than I expected it to be. There were a decent amount of, just old men by themselves, which hopefully won't be me in 60 years, but I could see it. But these are guys who don't know how to play video games probably at all. PlayStation sounds like Japanese to them, and they might not even know that Uncharted is based on a video game. I mean, my dad is much younger than the guys that were in the movie theater, and he had no idea. So it makes sense to me that they would make this into a movie. Those old guys, they should get to experience the story of Uncharted, which is great, which is what makes the game so great. They should get to experience that without having to, figure out how to plug in their PlayStation or bugging their grandkid to come over and play it for them because they can't figure out a level.
If you're if your theater was populated by exclusively people that you don't think have played the video game, I actually think, and nobody else.
No, I'm
Or
not saying I'm not saying nobody else, but I'm saying like the majority of like the 10 or 12 people that were in the movie theater today at the Marquee were older men. There were probably 4 or 5 people like me who had, were about the age where they would have played the video games, but the majority of the audience was older men.
I mean, that's just fascinating because, like, exactly, those are the people that you wouldn't expect for like a video game movie. I mean, it should be crushing with the people that have played the game, and yet it's not.
I think an underrated part of that draw, besides the fact that these are the guys that grew up with Indiana Jones and these kind of adventure comics and stuff like that, and haven't seen, yes, Mark Wahlberg, but these guys haven't seen a movie like this come out in a long time. I mean, shit, like, when was the last just fun adventure action movie? And I'm not talking Pirates because that's, kind of a period piece, but like an Indiana Jones style movie.
Indiana Jones is a period piece.
Yeah, but like, come on.
I
mean,
a
different way. You know what I mean? Like a modern action adventure, treasure hunting, like fun swashbuckly kind of movie. These haven't gotten made in a while.
We're gonna talk about them later. There's a couple.
Well, okay, but my point is that it is Mark Wahlberg because he is still a huge box office draw, especially for the older white male demographic who relate to, or I guess want to be, Mark Wahlberg. He is on the cover of Men's Health. My dad has the magazine right over there this month or this week. I don't know how often Men's Health comes out, but that's pretty indicative of the demographic that he draws. I will say the character of Sully, which Mark Wahlberg plays, I've only played the 4th game, so I might be a little off on this. Somebody feel free to correct me in the chat or call in if I'm wrong. But I thought the character of Sully, who Mark Wahlberg plays, in the 4th game, he's like old, like a lot older. He's like bald, Hawaiian shirt, big white mustache. And in this movie, he's played by Mark Wahlberg, who is 50, but does not look it at all.
Wait, do you know why?
He's like a Hollywood 50. Why?
Because he was supposed to be Nathan Drake. That's why he was attached to it for so long that I think to get it made, they were like, okay, shit. To justify this budget, we're going to need a little. They're happy to have it, but like we're going to need a little bit more pull. I think demographic pull. I think they tried with Tom Holland, so they switched the roles. That's my understanding of the situation.
Well, I would also say that at this age, Mark Wahlberg could not have played Nathan Drake in any of the 4 games.
Really? I mean, I didn't think he was supposed to be like. I thought he's supposed to be like kind of like.
My dad just texted me a correction. It is actually not Men's Health. It is Men's Journal. My apologies. They're so different.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
He doesn't want anybody thinking that he reads Men's Health. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, look, Wahlberg, when the development of this movie got started 10 or so years ago or whenever, would have been a fantastic choice for Nathan Drake. Like,
exactly.
Nathan Drake is from Boston. He's like a badass who doesn't take shit from anybody. And that's like Mark Wahlberg could have owned that character. Tom Holland definitely leans more into the quippiness. Probably that's just, that's the Marvel vibe.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like, I know those Uncharted games have some humor and it is quippy, but it's less of that.
Nathan Drake
safe
has
Marvel
he has like a boyish streak to him. Like he's very much, I want to find treasure because it's an adventure, right? And
he's an adventurer.
Yes, and everybody else around him is purely motivated by greed, and that is part of what makes the games great. But Tom Holland definitely leans into that boyish streak. And like I said, he does pull it off. But I would like to see the Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake version of this movie. Mark Wahlberg played Max Payne as well, right?
He did.
That's not a movie on our list to talk about. But
no, neither of us saw it.
Mentioning.
Well, there we mentioned it.
Yep, it's been mentioned, guys. Any Max Payne fans out there that were waiting for that, there you go. That's all you're getting.
And don't call in.
Right. All right. Well, I mean, that's really all I have to say about Uncharted. 2022.
Recommend?
I would. Yeah. I mean, look, if you just want to have fun, if you want to go to the movie theater with some friends and see like some cool action, it's definitely a theater movie. Like if you watch this at home, it's going to be a lot worse. It's a theater movie for sure. You will have fun. It's one of the better action movies that's come out this year. Probably the best action movie that's come out this year because it's only been 2 months. And the only other one that I can think of was The King's Man, which you can ask Parker and Phil. They saw it with me. Was not great. And this was pretty all right. So, yeah, I'll say I recommend. For fans of action-adventure, I would recommend. For the general public, I don't know. 50-50. In terms of the 2022 movie title belt, though, the most important thing, Jackass 4, absolutely still the champion. I mean, it's untouchable. As you guys know, we are huge Jackass 4 fans on this podcast. I honestly didn't see it coming. I love Jackass, but I didn't see it holding the movie title belt, especially not for 2 straight weeks. Not next week. Next week it will probably still hold. There's not too much of a challenge, nothing really coming out. But the week after that, we do have Batman, which I'm going to use a big word here, guys. I am trepidatious about, but
I'll be there opening night.
Right. I'll still be there. I'm not going to be there opening night. There's going to be too many people. I'm going to be there Tuesday morning at my matinee. That's how I roll now. Nobody's there. I love it. But considering the amount of people that were there for Jackass 4, or not Jackass 4, for Uncharted this morning, it was about 10 or 12. Probably going to be more than that for Batman. I'd say at least double. Which
probably.
Typically, I'm one of people in the theater, one of up to 5. So, COVID was pretty great for my movie going. And now that it's
good for you.
Yeah,
good for you.
It was awesome. I mean,
I'm happy for you. That's great.
Silver linings, man. Silver linings.
Yeah.
Now that things are, COVID's been over in Texas for months now, but people are mentally starting to get over it, go back to the theater a little bit. Spider-Man definitely helped out a lot with that. As much as we rag on Marvel on this pod, you really do. You really do have to shout out Marvel, give them a lot of respect for basically single-handedly keeping movie theaters open these past 2 years.
Hey, what's good for, the theaters is good for me.
A rising tide lifts all boats, is what they say.
A rising cape, yes.
Right. All right, well, Jackass 4 still holds the movie title belt. Nothing's going to happen with that next week. 2 weeks, though. Pretty decent challenge in Batman. All right. Next up, very special segment for y'all. Phil and I got a little bit creative this past weekend. After this, we're going to go into part 2 of our movie talk for this week. We'll be going a little more in-depth about video game movies. And we still have Twitch Taboo trivia coming up later. Don't forget about that. Stick around if you want to win the big money. So far, I've been cussing up a storm this podcast. We're at $5.25 for the prize. But first, a song. We're elevating this pod beyond mere parody songs like Putin Baby. I am proud to present Fuck It, We're Doing It Live's first original musical satire. Nolan and I have said a few times on here that the best satire is also a really good version of what it's making fun of. Well, for this song, Phil made such a good instrumental that I actually feel kind of bad about using it for a joke. So, if you would like to use this instrumental for something a little more sincere, a little more worthwhile, or if you would like to hear more stuff like this, get in touch with Phil. If you don't know him, get in touch with me, and I'll set you up. This one goes out to all the QAnon idiots. You guys have taken a lot of losses these past couple years. I just thought that I'd pile on a little bit and let my nuts hang. So, you've completely alienated your friends and relatives. Q is gone, but your family is still here. You can still log off 8chan. You can still go home. This is Lost Without Q.
Just a couple of guys, code monkeying around. They call me One Take Jake.
Where is all the HN gone? What happened to the storm? Where's the guys with Nazi flags who fight Satan's cabal? Isn't there a white knight to protect from the vaccine? Late at night I toss and turn and dream of letter 17. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you.
They're Satan worshippers, Satanists. They're Satan worshippers, 100%. And I couldn't wait to tell my family. And they just go. They just said, you're crazy. Trump's the worst.
I heard about the deep state, tried to tell my family. They told me I was crazy and they blocked my Twitter feed. I went back on Parler, turned on No Way in. Refreshing a chat till I heard from Q again. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you.
I know what God wants of us and what Jesus wants, and it's what Trump wants, and it's what the patriots want.
He said to take Bethesda, but he never went to jail. The shaman got arrested and he isn't making bail. JFK Jr., he never showed his face. Maybe that's because he was dead in the first place. It's been a year now since January 6th. I took a shit on Pelosi's desk. Now I'm in ADX Florence. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa.
QAnon is an American far-right political conspiracy theory and mass political movement. It is centered on false claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals known as Q.
We go on. I don't even say the N word anymore, right? What? The N word. It's a dirty word. So now I have my own words instead of the words that I know the algorithms are gonna shut me down.
You tell us what word is used for which, we're not gonna shut you down.
Mask, the face diaper, vaccine, the jokey pokey, and election fraud. The obvious fraud. See, people don't understand everything that we've learned from day one has been a lie. We never were on the moon. I don't think the Hitler situation is as bad as they said it was either. That was the Rothschilds, that was the Rockefellers. Those are naughty words in social media. I got banned forever on Facebook.
And we're back. That was Lost Without Q, the first original song by the Truck Stop Lizards.
I think I heard that at the neo-Nazi rally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Well, I will be posting that on 8chan. Viewers are viewers, numbers are numbers. And hey, we might get some interesting callers, who knows. So, next we're going to be going into a more general discussion of video game movies, video game television, any sort of video game adaptation to, a visual, well, video games are a visual medium, but to movies or television. So, to start, Nolan, we've got a game that you have a lot to say about, I know, that was adapted to a Netflix series starring Henry Cavill, I don't know. But, see, guys, I can't even pronounce white people's names, so That's just how it is. Henry Cavill, I'm gonna guess. Henry Cavill,
Cavill.
yeah.
Yeah.
Stars as what? Geralt
Geralt of Rivia.
Geralt of Rivia. And Nolan, could you give us some background on the Witcher games for those of us that don't know?
Sure. The Witcher games are made by Polish studio CD Projekt Red, also makers of the famed disaster Cyberpunk.
That game sucks.
Yeah.
It is incredibly addictive, though.
Yeah, well, because it's made by this company, they make games that suck, but I guess apparently are unbelievably popular. So The Witcher, I can only really speak to The Witcher 3, although people do say better things about 1 and 2, but definitely 3 is considered by far the best game, and was an absolutely huge hit. One of those games that's AAA all the way through, including I think there's I know people that have played it through in full, and it takes 300 to 400 hours.
And it won Game of the Year, right?
Probably, yeah. Again, also, if anybody,
I'm sure there's a Game of the Year edition.
There is a Game of the Year edition. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because you can see it on the. Anyway, if any callers have any opinions on the game or the movie or the show, please let me know, because this is based on my limited experience with The Witcher 3, which I had a really poor time with, and I just don't think is a good game. I just think it's what really is all that interesting about it. I don't think the writing is as good as what people say. Although I will say it's better writing than most video games. However, and again, not trying to dig on any video game writers or anything like that, you're doing good work. Most video game writing is not very good because it's not considered to be important. So
right.
Yes, I think it's good for video games, but not quite. But it is based on some super interesting lore. It's based on a series of books by a Polish author whose name I absolutely am not going to try to pronounce.
Well, go ahead. No, it's fun. I mispronounce some stuff. You can try to.
It's like Andres. I'm not even sure. I don't have it in front of me.
I'll give it a shot. 1 second.
Give it a shot. Yeah, let me know. But it's based on a series of books in which
I got it.
Andrzej
Sapkowski. The last name is not that bad. His first name is spelled ANDRZDJ.
Yeah,
which is tough for me. But Sapkowski,
I'm pretty sure that's
I can do that.
I'm pretty sure that's basically Andre. I don't think it's anything.
Right.
It's Andrzej, something like that.
Andrzej Sapkowski, whatever. We'll go with that.
Yeah. Anyway, sure. So him, The Witcher it's an adaptation of that.
Oh, hold on, I'm getting a call. Probably some salty Witcher fan.
Yeah, please bring him on.
Call from.
This is Willie.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
Oh, hello, Willie. How are you doing?
How's it going, boys?
Good. Good to have you on the show. First time.
What's up, Willie?
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, I always get pretty nervous when I'm listening, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to finally, get the courage to finally make that call.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. So, what do you have to say about The Witcher, Willie?
I would say the first time I watched it, I just immediately wanted more from my guy. He just gives me very, very creepy vibes, which I get is the point. But, some games just aren't meant to be turned into TV shows, and I can say The Witcher confidently should not be a TV show. People love it. I know people love it. But
when you say your guy, you're talking about Henry Cavill as Geralt?
Yes.
Okay. And you say he's just a creepy fuck?
He's just a creepy guy.
Yeah.
I just can't. I watched a couple episodes, and I can say comfortably I am no expert on the matter.
Okay.
But just off the top of my head,
right,
just is not it.
Okay. Jacqueline commented in the chat that The Witcher has a lot of BDE, which for our older listeners stands for Big Dick Energy. Would you agree with that assessment, Willie?
Yeah, definitely.
That a lot of BDE in this show. He doesn't care.
He doesn't give a fuck.
Would you classify him as a Sigma male?
Yeah, he's more of a Chad, in my opinion. No, I take it back. Have you seen the Giga Chad?
No, I don't
I
think
would
I'm
say
aware of that.
He's
I would-
more
I would say
boring
he's
than
more
that.
why don't you Google search Giga Chad?
All right,
And
I'll
he
give
gives-
you. I'll give it a Google.
No,
I
that's
think
that's
he
giving
really
him way
reminds
too
me,
much
and for all
credit.
the listeners out there, I would give Giga Chad a quick Google search as well.
Yeah, I gave it a Google, guys. It's pretty worth it.
I mean, it's pretty unbelievable.
Oh,
if
it's
this
this
is a real
guy, dude. This guy's chin. I mean, good God, he looks like the Crimson Chin, like from Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, I mean, he'd ruin your family, that's for sure. He'd come into your house, pillage all of your belongings.
Are we talking
dog
about
your
Geralt
mom,
or
and
the
leave.
Giga Chad?
Both.
So,
I mean,
so would you recommend the Witcher TV series to our listeners here?
I don't know.
Probably not.
I wouldn't recommend it personally, but there are
Right.
certain shows that I say right off the back, oh, this fucking sucks. Like, I would never watch this. But then,
Right.
when you get like 5 episodes deep, your mindset changes completely.
Well, that's sort of like Stockholm Syndrome, though.
Yeah, of course. But I would say comfortably off the bat, I mean, I will say that was true of Breaking Bad when I first started watching it as well. I'm not saying that this show is as good as Breaking Bad, or it's not even
Right.
remotely, but I mean, I hated it. The first season, the first 4 episodes, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Of Breaking Bad?
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't get behind it. I thought it was pretty slow paced, but then things just started happening so quickly.
Right.
And my life just changed forever.
So, Willie, have you played the Witcher games at all?
I haven't.
Okay.
And that may be my lack of context.
Right. I'm curious if any of our listeners here have played the Witcher games besides Nolan. Please give me a call. And if the Google Voice line is not working, Willie is occupying it right now, but you can just call me on my personal number and we can all talk about it.
You know what game Witcher does remind me of, just off of visual aspect, though?
Which
is,
one?
Dark Souls. I know it's obviously very different, but I did play that game, and I almost cried multiple times.
Well, Dark Souls is famously impossible.
Yeah, I understand.
I've played.
No fun.
I haven't played Dark Souls, but I have played Shovel Knight, which a lot of people compare to Dark Souls, in that you just die until you figure it out. And yeah, that game also has almost made me cry on multiple occasions.
So shitty. So terrible.
All right, well, Willie, you got anything?
Yeah.
Anything else for me? You got any other? Do you have any? Okay, how about this? What video games would you want to see made into TV or movies? Because you said earlier some. Oh, I'm getting a call. Hold on.
Yeah, patch him in.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, so I haven't played the Witcher video game, but Will has.
Okay, this is my sister. Her boyfriend Will has played the Witcher games, and he's about to come on here. So we got Will. We got William on the Google, or not Willie on the Google Voice. We got Will on my personal number. We got William hosting. Try to keep up, guys. Hey,
Hello.
Will, how's it going? You're on the air.
Hey, I'm in the air right now?
Yep.
Oh, word. Okay, I walked in the other room, so I didn't get all feedback or whatever.
So, Will, you've played The Witcher?
Oh, I see what you do. You have it like... Okay, never mind. Yeah, man, I played The Witcher. Then I got real, into video games again after a long period in my life not too long ago. And Witcher was one of the ones I played. And I think I talked about it with Nolan at one point.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But
Yeah.
bottom line, I'm not a fan.
Really?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Not a fan of the games?
Yeah, the games.
Have you watched the TV show at all? Well, I would assume not. Yeah, if you're not a fan of the games, why watch the TV show, I guess.
Yeah, that was a big part of it. I don't think that the subject matter seemed that appealing to me if it wasn't a game.
Right. Now,
And I was interested in, because I had heard, like Nolan had said, that it had this reputation for being the most incredible, expansive, like
Right.
immersive, like thing, whatever. And that ended up not being my experience, despite being bored enough to have played a whole shit ton of it.
right. And Will, have you played Skyrim at all?
I have played Skyrim.
Okay, because that is the game that The Witcher reminds me the most of, just on first impression. How would you compare the two?
To me, the Witcher is way less immersive. The gameplay, like the mechanics and the kind of narrative gameplay, is way more restrictive.
Right.
Like it feels like there's always like a guardrail, like at every moment.
Like keeping you on track with the story, that kind of thing.
Even down to the level of just the way the like mechanics of the way you push the buttons and shit work.
Right.
Like whereas in Skyrim everything feels so incredibly like I can do whatever the fuck I want, which to me is like really what I look for in a video game, I guess.
Right.
And what I didn't really like about The Witcher. On top of that, the comment you made about the comment I guess you read from another listener
About the BDE.
BDE, yes, which is totally a thing, and it made me realize too that with like I don't know why it is, but it's like kind of weird with the CD Projekt Red games.
Right.
In both cases, there's like a literal both cases being also Cyberpunk. There's like a literal brothel you can go to and
Right.
have like a fucking like a sex scene that you can like watch.
It's like the strip club in GTA, though, right?
Right,
Oh, worse.
I guess,
So
but
sick.
it's a little less like it's like yeah, for sure. But also, it seems like more like contrived. I don't know. It's I'm not a big Grand Theft Auto player, but I do remember I did do a little bit with it. But and I do remember that. What's so funny?
You say you did a little bit of the Witcher whorehouse?
No,
I'll give myself a swear jar for whore.
Like that's how you
Oh yeah, you tried everything.
Everything once.
In Grand Theft Auto, I don't remember that as well. But
Right.
it's, like comparatively, I don't remember it as being so like I don't know. I guess the BDE would apply in either cases, but it
Well,
just seems
Grand
like
Theft Auto to me seems more like small dick energy.
Okay.
You're compensating all the time.
The
But
best
I
part about Grand
but I
Theft
do
Auto-
I see your point. I see your point.
And
It-
but
it-
it like
the-
leads to a whole cut. I don't remember if in Grand Theft Auto was the case, but in The Witcher, as in Cyberpunk, it's like a pretty extended cutscene that
Right.
you get when you go to the brothel and like have But anyway,
All right. Well, Will, I really appreciate your insight. I got another call actually while you were on the line.
Nolan's impression of The Witcher is more negative things, just very on point.
Yeah.
My experience. But anyway, get on your other calls. Guys.
All right. Yeah, I think it's Phil calling in to defend The Witcher. Will, thank you for
Okay,
for
sweet.
talking to us.
I'll be listening.
You have a good night.
Thank you, Will.
All right, let me call Phil back. He called while we were on the line with Will here. I think he wants to defend The Witcher. Willie hung up on us. I'm sorry, Willie.
I am ready.
Thank you
I'm
for calling
game.
in, Willie. Call back in anytime you want. We love having you.
What he said was true about the restrictive narrative.
I agree. That's the main issue that I have seen between like a game like Skyrim that's very open world and The Witcher, which is very character and story driven, right? Like there's
Linear.
a trend in games, right? Like it used to be you are Mario, you played through Mario's story. And then it kind of became with Grand Theft Auto, with Grand Theft Auto less so, but with stuff like Saints Row,
Minecraft.
or like Minecraft, it's about you customizing your character, playing through your own story, rather than playing through the story of, say, Geralt or John Marston in the example of Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, or Nathan Drake.
Definitely the big difference between.
Okay, here's Phil. Phil, what do you got for me?
All right, so the biggest difference between Witcher and Skyrim is Skyrim you're just put as like a blank character, but Witcher it's like you're playing Geralt. And first of all, I'm a huge Witcher nerd. I played Witcher 2 like 10 years ago. Read like 2 of the books. And
Wow,
then played
you read
Witcher
the
3.
books?
So,
That
and
is
then
advanced,
I watched
Phil.
the first season. Yeah, dude. I was super into it.
Okay, you're the perfect person to call in here. What do you got?
But, I mean, the games are sick. Y'all are just wrong about that. And don't play enough video games to appreciate it. But
That's it.
The games are basically like reading a book. Like, you have to be... If you're not going to put in the 100 hours, then you're not going to enjoy it. It's one of those games.
Okay.
No, Phil, I like books.
The first season was pretty cool.
The first season of the show, did you watch the entire first season?
Yeah, I binged it in like a few days.
Did you catch any of that BDE that we've been talking so much about?
Yeah, but I mean, like Geralt gets like roasted all the time by the other Witchers because his like fighting stance is feminine and he always twirls around and he gets roasted for saying like stupid lines. Like he'll say like some crazy one-liner after killing like 5 guys. Then the person he saved will be like, "Dude, who are you talking to?" Like, stop being weird. Like,
Well, but
isn't pretty self-aware? Like roasts him for it.
Isn't that part of the BDE though, that he just keeps doing it and he doesn't care?
Kinda, yeah. But it's like he gets roasted for it, and it definitely is like, I don't know. He's just like socially unaware. Like everyone knows that he's just like, I don't know.
But isn't he?
He's
Okay,
just
wait.
socially inept.
For some quick lore context, isn't Geralt like a? Well, okay, wait. Is it all Witchers that are like half human, half something else, or is it just Geralt?
Yeah, basically it's like the Witchers were people that like got tested on with a bunch of stuff as kids to become like super warriors.
Like Captain
They
America.
did this like 1,000 years ago to like fight monsters because like the land was like mostly run by monsters, and then there's like a few that are left living or whatever.
Right, and so that's where
like,
Geralt
everyone
comes
hates him
in.
because it's like, bro, yeah, it's like, dude, everyone hates him because he's overpowered and like stops. Like they do good, but they stop crime. But it's like kind of just like whatever they want to do, you know?
Right,
Because no one can stop them.
right.
They're mostly good.
So, okay, so you would say overall, having loved the games, experienced the books, I don't know how you felt about them exactly, would you say that the TV series was a good adaptation? Was it faithful? Was it entertaining? Should it have been more or less faithful to be more entertaining?
It was faithful, but there were some things that it's like, I don't know why they didn't just do it how it was in the games or in the book, you know? Like, there was just
Right.
like a few small random things where it wasn't even like for Hollywood or to make it work. It was just like, there was no need to make this different, you know?
Right.
Just like in the games, someone like looking a certain way or having some kind of haircut or something, and then in the show they just like look
Different.
totally different or
Right.
something like that, yeah.
And Phil, I know that you told me there's a card game in The Witcher, I believe called Gwent, that you've played for
that's
hours upon hours.
Yeah, bro, that's like where half my playtime went.
Was into just sitting around playing cards. I guess that is a very positive aspect for the game if you can get immersed in a mini game that much, right? That says a lot about the detail and effort put into the game. Yeah.
Straight up. But I don't want to talk just about The Witcher.
Okay.
While we're on the topic of video game movies, I want to talk about how the Pokemon movies are wasted opportunities.
And
Because,
by
dude, they
by
could be so
Pokemon movies, you mean the animated ones, or do you mean the modern ones such as Detective Pikachu?
I'm talking Detective Pikachu.
Okay, yeah, because the older animated ones are just classic.
Yeah, older anime ones are classics. I don't like. How are you gonna have a Pokemon movie and not have it be about like trainers aren't even a thing?
Right,
Like it makes no sense.
right.
Well, it's interesting about.
Nolan, what were you saying?
I say, well, we saw Detective Pikachu all together. I'm pretty sure.
Right, we did. You, me, Phil all saw Detective Pikachu together.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things about that like game is like I believe, or about that movie is I believe that like the Pokemon fighting itself is like not really a thing.
Right.
Or it's like it's kind of frowned upon. Like they go bust up a club where that's
Right.
happening.
Pokemon fighting is definitely like dog fighting.
Because when you get down
the
to it,
US.
and if you start putting real people in it, starts to kind of look like dog fighting.
It is. I mean, it is. They're animals,
Yeah.
and they're battling them and training them to fight and raising them to be.
They're best friends too. Think of like they love each other. It's not like
A dog is man's best friend. That doesn't mean man can't abuse dog.
yeah, but like Ash and Pikachu are like total homies. Like you can't.
All
tell
right.
me they're both down for it.
No, you're right. I'm not gonna get into the ethics of Pokemon on this podcast, but yeah, that's a very complex subject. All right, Phil. Well, do you have? We're gonna move on from The Witcher now. We've spent a good amount of time on it. We're gonna spend a little bit of time on Cuphead and the Arcane League of Legends series. Do you have anything to say about Cuphead, Phil? I feel like that's a game you might have played.
Haven't played Cuphead. I hate League of Legends and I haven't seen Arcane. But I want to hear your thoughts on the Mario movie that's coming out.
Okay,
we're gonna get to it.
We'll get there. We'll
We
get
don't
there.
even know if it's gonna be 2D or 3D. Maybe we do. Or like
It is 3D, I believe. It's like Mario
Definitely
Odyssey.
3D.
real people.
Mario Odyssey, Mario
Yeah.
Galaxy.
No,
Animated.
is it animated?
It's animated, yeah. Chris Pratt is voicing Mario. Chris Pratt couldn't play real Mario. Okay, Phil. Well,
Live action Marios.
they did. We could discuss that, but Nolan decided to start our brief history of video game movies around 2010 to kind of keep it more relevant because they were pretty sparse until about then. All right, Phil. Well, I'm going to let you go. Feel free to call back in later. We're going to be talking about video games that we would like to see made into good movies, which I'm sure you have a few opinions about.
Yo, brainstorm.
Yeah, but for now, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for calling in, Phil, and giving us a counterpoint on The Witcher because we were getting a lot of hate on it. So it's good to hear a positive opinion. All right. Thanks for calling in, Phil. See you later. All right, moving on from The Witcher, we're going to talk about the new Cuphead show on Netflix here. I watched the first 3 episodes in preparation for this podcast. Nolan, have you played Cuphead at all?
No, but I've been in the room with people that have played it.
Right. I've played like the first couple, well, not really even the first couple levels. I couldn't finish a level. It's an incredibly difficult game. Incredibly difficult. The art style is so cool, and that honestly makes the game even harder. Because I was like, well, I just kind of want to look at this game the whole time. Like, it seems a lot of fun. It's kind of like, this is kind of a deep pull here, but do you remember the game Epic Mickey?
Absolutely not.
Okay, it was a Mickey Mouse video game where it's like Oswald the Rabbit is the villain. If you know Oswald the Rabbit, he was like the original Mick Mouse before Walt Disney, strong-armed Roy Disney out of the company and or whatever happened, whoever did Oswald the Rabbit. But basically, it's like Mickey Mouse versus Oswald the Rabbit. It's an RPG. It's a pretty fun game. But Cuphead reminds me of Epic Mickey a little bit in that it's very immersed in that old school cartoon world. I'm seeing we're getting some love for Epic Mickey in the chat, Nolan, so this is not just me. But it's very immersed in that old cartoon world. And with Cuphead the game, I always just kind of wanted to watch a playthrough of it instead of actually playing it. Because it's incredibly difficult, but the bosses are extremely cool. All the enemies look really cool. The story is great. It's very dark, but in a really funny way. And having watched the first 3 episodes of the show, none of that comes through except for the art style. I mean, it's a very adultly themed game. It's a very dark game. Like Cuphead Cuphead owes the devil his soul and has to complete certain tasks in order to not die, basically.
I mean, but that's the first episode of the show.
Right, it is the first episode of the show.
I didn't think it was super dark. I mean, it's kind of they handle it.
It's
about
not.
the attitude.
The show
that
is not dark. The game is fairly adult and dark, and that's my issue with the show is that it's very childish. The first episode is the best of the first 3 episodes. I will say that it is the most faithful to the game as I have experienced it in my limited play. The second 2 episodes are very much like, it reminds me almost of like Chip and Dale cartoons, not the adult dancing restaurant. However, but
Shame.
I know, right? There is a Chip and Dale's movie coming out actually at some point, I believe this year, that I'm very excited for, about not the Chipmunks, but the adult dancing establishment. Although there is also a movie coming out about the Chipmunks, so that should be really interesting. Hopefully we can do a double episode where we combine those. But the show at times turns into sort of a Chip and Dale situation where it's Cuphead and Mugman, and they're just getting up to really wacky, childish hijinks. Like, Cuphead wants to paint the fence with a cannon, but it doesn't work. It explodes. It's just like the second 2 episodes especially are fairly childish in like a way that does not fit with the tone of the games and does not really fit with the first episode either. It just kind of gets dumb. It's clearly a show that's made for like kids under 8. And it's just not fulfilling as somebody who is expecting more of an adult-facing cartoon from an adult-facing video game.
I mean, so I have really, like I said, no conception. Like, clearly I didn't know that the games had any kind of adult themes because I really was only familiar with the style and some of the gameplay mechanics. But, I mean, overall, I only watched the first episode, but I thought it was really charming. I thought it was really...
the first
had some good sight gags.
The first episode is good.
Yeah, it's like,
I will say it really, like, it falls off and you get tired of the bit really quickly because they don't add anything to it.
Yeah, regardless, I just mean in terms of like, I could see why the show got made without those themes because it's just basically
the show got made because the game is about cartoons. So like, it's like how Uncharted is about Indiana Jones, and it makes perfect sense to make essentially a modern Indiana Jones out of the Uncharted games. Cuphead is based on old 30s cartoons, and it makes perfect sense to make a cartoon out of the the games. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, so then I'm not quite like, I see what you're saying, but like, I'm also of the thinking that like, honestly, if you have to, or like you think it's the best route, no faithfulness is the best way to get when it goes to video games. Like, right. I don't really see how this one. I mean, maybe I could see how Cuphead could work if it was darker, but I don't even think I would want. I don't know if I want anything like that.
Well, but that was my favorite part of the pilot, was the aspects with the devil. That was what was interesting.
That's not like dark. It's like,
not like dark, but it is darker than the second 2 episodes, which are basically like I said, like a Chip and Dale cartoon or like SpongeBob.
Just too inconsequential.
It's
childish, zany and zippy.
It's childish, yeah. I do have a good chat here from, I believe, my dad, based on his proclivity for ending usernames with 007, which, Nolan, I'm sure you can appreciate.
Yes, hello.
So he asks, what about the beginning of video games and movies, war games, not based on a video game, but starring a video game?
Interesting. I mean,
I do love war games.
I do too.
But it's not necessarily starring a video game. It's starring a computer, right? Like, he engages in multiple different games with the computer. He engages
but he's playing
tic-tac-toe. He engages in what is essentially nuclear risk, and things like that. He does. That is true, though. The inciting incident, he thinks he's playing a video game.
Yeah, it's all about like a video game in a sense. It's like, and also it's like definitely one of the first major Hollywood movies to even like have that as a centerpiece. So
that is true.
Thank you.
Big shout out to war games, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then they would, after that, they would kind of pop up in like other places.
Right.
Like weird example.
More as like a gimmick, like Hackers, right? You know.
Yeah. Where it's like a central. I mean, I think there's definitely some movies about video games coming to life and something like and stuff like that. Yeah,
Well, you can currently stream War Games on Tubi for free with ads. Shout out to my friend Mariah who works at Tubi.
Shout out to Mariah.
Tubi, sponsor me. I got connections to you guys. There's no reason not to. I will shout out your movies all the time. War Games, pretty fantastic movie. Matthew Broderick and one of those like Elizabeth Shue type 80s heartthrobs, Ali Sheedy, something along those lines. I'll do the quick Google.
It was a movie like based with a video game component?
No, War Games. I'm saying like the co-star.
Oh yeah, I don't
was
quite
some
recall.
sort of 80s heartthrob situation. Here we go. Ali Sheedy. I was right. There
Ali
you go.
Sheedy? Nice.
Yep.
I really can't think of too many others where it's like as much of a mechanic really in terms of like being an inciting incident. Other than like that game with Gerard Butler, Gamer.
Oh, Gamer? Well, that's a fun movie. Or Spy Kids 3D.
Spy Kids 3D. Good point.
Another
Good
classic.
Point.
Robert Rodriguez, a major director.
VR, presaging
Ready Player
that.
One.
Yeah.
Which
but again,
is a really Ready Player One might be something we should talk about. Although we're, it's 11:20. We do need to speed it up a little teensy bit. But Ready Player One is an interesting one. Sarah Jane, we are going to talk about Tron later. Ready Player One is an interesting one because it's a book about video games that features tons of video game references and then is made into a movie.
But it's not a video game.
It's along the lines of like a Wreck-It Ralph, where it's about video games and there are existing video games in it. It exists in the world of like real world video games and IP, but it is not about an actual video game or IP.
I mean, it is also, it is, but it's even more so like there's a bunch of video games and like obviously the center mechanic, you're right, is the video game itself. But that one's also just more about like sweeping every possible cultural reference into it, not just video games.
It's the Space Jam 2 of video game movies, shall we say.
Yeah, it's just the like
it's an IP
clusterfuck of references.
Right. Okay, well, let's move on from Cuphead. I'm going to quickly speak on the League of Legends show, Arcane, just because, Witcher, Cuphead, Arcane, we're Netflix simps on this podcast. These are all Netflix original shows. Arcane is a really interesting example of a video game adaptation because it's adapted from League of Legends, which is... I haven't played League of Legends, so I don't necessarily think it's a shooter. It's more like a top-down PvP sort of situation, right? If I'm correct.
It's an MMORPG. It's like it's like a major.
It's not like Warcraft.
Oh, sorry, it's not an RPG. It is like a battle game.
It's like an Overwatch or like a
but top-down strategy.
Top-down, right? More strategy-based, more kind of tower defense-y, if I'm getting my vibes right. Somebody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody's played League of Legends. But Arcane is really interesting because, as I understand it, League of Legends has like a really broad and like relatively shallow lore, as in like the lore consists of character descriptions for like each type, and that's it. There's no story-driven part of the game. It's a PvP game. Right, and so I think it is uniquely positioned for a really good adaptation because Arcane, having only watched the pilot, I mean, it's solid. It's decent. It reminds me of Avatar a little bit in that it's like kind of a gang of misfit kids going around doing whatever, in the pilot at least. But what I found very intriguing about it is, like I said, League of Legends has a very broad and shallow lore, and Arcane is basically just pulling stories out of thin air using like the loosest framework of the lore. And I think that this might actually be the best way to do it because it gives writers complete freedom to create stories, right? And there's none of that fan pressure that comes with something like Uncharted, where it's a more straightforward adaptation and fans know what they're supposed to see. And if they don't see it, they'll get pissed, right? But in something like Arcane, League of Legends fans have no expectations. If I was a League of Legends player, I would be shocked that they're making a TV show out of this in the first place. And if it's good, that's just a cherry on top, you know? So I think
There's nothing that they're entitled to.
Right. Nothing can really go wrong here. It's all upside. So I wouldn't say I would recommend Arcane unless you've played League of Legends, in which it would probably be a very interesting exercise in figuring out how exactly all that stuff from the game fits in. As somebody who's never played the game, I didn't find it incredibly interesting, but the production value is clearly very high. The animation style is interesting. I wouldn't say I love it, but it is interesting, and I always appreciate when people try something new. And, the story's compelling enough. I don't know. If you played the game, you'd probably be interested. I had trouble really latching on to anything, and I probably missed some of the references that they were making. But it was better than I was expecting. I will say that.
Fair enough. I mean, I think probably worth a recommend, at least in that regard.
Yeah, if you're a League of Legends person, I would highly recommend. If you're not, I probably wouldn't.
Pass.
I would say watch Korra or Avatar instead, or a lot of other things. Attack on Titan even.
You can't go wrong there.
Before you watch Arcane. So, Nolan, I believe you have a brief history of video game movies for us coming up here. Now that we've gone over our Netflix shows here.
It's brief and abbreviated, so there's a bunch of stuff that's not included, and it'll be pretty apparent because we're going to start in 2010 with The Prince of Persia, Jake Gyllenhaal movie. I don't know why I picked this; it's just a good signifier, and also I think it basically looking at the list I have in front of me. There's only a couple of types of these movies. So you have your Prince of Persia's, your new Tomb Raiders, and Assassin's Creed, and of course.
Birds.
And Uncharted. Hold on. Yeah. And those are those clearly supposed to be going for those classic blockbuster action adventure feel based on this legacy, based on these kind of games that I believe are pretty much all kind of within the PlayStation-ish realm.
Right.
And so they just have that connection.
So
we're talking about
real fast. That was another really interesting thing about Uncharted is the production tags. It was Sony, and then it was Columbia, a Sony company, and then it was PlayStation Productions, also owned by Sony. So I think that them opening a brand like PlayStation Productions kind of lends to the belief that there are going to be a lot more of these in the pipe. But continue.
Yeah, it's telling about where they're headed for sure. I mean, so that definitely Uncharted falls into that action adventure thing. And then you do have some other ones that are clearly based on just legacy and the name. And you aren't quite sure why they necessarily got made. Why did Tron Legacy get made?
Because it's awesome.
It's just bizarre. I mean, and why did Rampage get made?
Okay, that is an excellent question.
Yeah, it's these things where it's they have this legacy connection, so you can leverage it out as IP with a known audience, but they're so demographically scattered and stuff, which is contrasted, I think, to the even more youth oriented leveraging, which is Sonic, Detective Pikachu, and Angry Bird.
Right. I think Rampage, when you say demographically scattered, that's a great way to put it, because the audience of the arcade game Rampage is basically whoever's drunk at Skeeter's. I mean, it's not an actual demographic.
No, it's or a rabid fan base or anything like that. It's just it's strange that it's even a connection, but I guess it's about how it got made. And so I think
Jacqueline points out it does have The Rock.
It has a rock, right?
And that's surefire. Your movie's getting made.
Yeah, true. But I think it's just really telling that these things, I get the feeling are kind of they're drawing more from the games than they necessarily should. There's tons of money, even in the last decade, being spent on somebody trying to get this formula right. and nobody has, which is why
Right.
it's so interesting to look at the stuff that's gonna be coming up.
The amount of money that's being invested in these kind of movies that nobody's really figured out how to make well.
Yeah, they've for like the most part been like either like so-so successes or like pretty much bombs. Like Warcraft bomb, like Tron Legacy I think didn't do that well.
There's no
Prince of
way
Persia,
Tron
bomb.
Legacy is like a net bomb at this point. The soundtrack alone has enough revenue to cover the budget of that movie.
Yeah, I mean it's the best part about the movie.
The soundtrack, like, let's just bask in that for a second. Maybe like one of the best Daft Punk albums, flat out.
Okay. I mean, sure. I mean, I trust me. I'd be the first on the beaches for that, but like I disagree. But it is a great album. It's a great score. It absolutely carries the movie on its shoulders all the way to the finish line.
That's one of those early Olivia Wilde movies or roles at least, where she's pretty good in that. I don't know. She isn't doing like the comedy bit that she necessarily does later. She's not really being funny. She's being more like serious, sexy kind of, and she pulls it off, I think. Jeff Bridges is also pretty decent in Tron. Sam Worthington, I feel like, is like, so like Ruben Flesher, the director of Uncharted, is basically like a stock action studio movie director, right? Like he's the guy that comes in and executes. He's not going to do anything crazy, but he's going to execute. Sam Worthington feels like the same thing. He's like the guy the studios call when they're like, okay, we have a big budget movie and we don't want to do anything crazy, but we can't afford to screw it up. Let's call Sam Worthington for Avatar, for Clash of the Titans, for Tron.
Yeah, he's like kind of like just a stock standard. He's like an action figure. You can just plop him in there and like boop, throw some armor on him,
Exactly.
and now he's yeah.
And he'll go there and he'll hit his mark and he'll say his lines and he'll do fine. But he's not going to do anything crazy or be super creative or win any Oscars ever. And that's fine.
Yeah, which is interesting because I think that what the video game model needs is more distinction. Like, so they're obviously looking to make it like somebody, of course, is looking to topple the Marvel formula, and somebody's going to find it when it comes to video games. But what is going to definitely bring you in is like good characterization, a unique identity that makes it stand out against just your standard action adventure fare. You can't have that. So
I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, because there is no standard action adventure fare. I mean, besides like the recent examples I can think of from the past 2 years are Uncharted and Reacher. And besides that, Reacher is basically like an action spy thing. But like in terms of action adventure, it's pretty thin out there. I don't think that, that going straight action adventure would necessarily be a bad move for anybody.
I mean, I just think you can't do it in a way that sucks out the identity of the thing.
Of the game.
It's more about, I mean, it's not like, I'm not comparing against that. I just mean, it's like, you can't have something that's like a lifeless studio mess initially until they can make it work and repeat it, on and on and on. Right. So it's got to be something unique and novel at first that can be formalized and then reproduced. Which is why it's interesting to see what is going to be upcoming in movies, but also in TV, with, that landscape and all of the money that's being poured into this right now. So some of the stuff you have upcoming where I think that they're going for that a more unique, distinct identity with regards to their respective franchises. So you have I think is it Amazon Fallout, with Jonathan Nolan at the helm. And then you have the HBO's The Last of Us with Pedro Pascal as Joel, the main character. So these are two people, at least talent-wise, who are well-respected, definitely known for a little bit more inventiveness or just bringing something that has a little bit more prestige to these projects. And I think this is going to be one way they're going to go. But that's the only. I think that's really only going to work for TV, because you could tell these longer stories and whatnot.
Right.
So the movie situation is going to be different, I think.
I don't know. I think that, well, Seth is in here saying, I think a lot of the problem is that most video games don't have good stories, so it's hard to make a movie with a good story out of it. And that kind of ties into my point here, is you're talking about games being made for TV. I think that is great for games that have, you know, a more drawn-out story like The Witcher or Skyrim or something like that are 300, 400-hour games, whatever. But for something like Uncharted or like God of War or any of those Naughty Dog games or anything like that, I think a movie is just fine. The games already feel very cinematic. And, I mean, Nolan, you are the biggest critic of this, is like story inflation, shall we call it, stretching things that could be movies into TV or miniseries.
I'm not saying I'm for it, and I think you're slightly misunderstanding. Or maybe I wasn't clear. So like I think that the Fallout Last of Us model will work for TV, but right. I'm not.
You're not saying that it won't work for movies.
I'm not saying it won't work for movies. I'm saying
Gotcha.
I guess it lends itself well to that. But you're 100% right, especially because video games, even Fallout, which I love, can have its side quests that are not worth it. You know, like
right. There's a lot of story inflation in video games in general because of side quests, because of wanting to create that 300-hour experience, right?
Yeah, game
rather
padding,
than having a quick playthrough.
Yeah, especially like The Witcher is a good example. So
right.
I think it's interesting to see what the TV side is doing, but there's a very clear concerted direction, it seems like.
Yeah.
But the movie side is a big question mark. It's anybody's game, which is why,
like you said,
fascinating.
nobody's figured it out. So
yeah.
We'll see. Uncharted, I think, is on its way, but that has more to do with the game that it's adapting. That has more to do with the source material than necessarily the execution of the movie.
Right. But even still, like, you know, it's referencing extremely well-known tropes. Like I could imagine people going to see Uncharted, like, and not knowing it was based on a video game.
Right. Well, no, I said, there were a decent amount of people in my theater. My dad, when I told him, like, I came home today, I was like, yeah, I saw Uncharted, and it was based on a video game. And he was like, what? So, like, there's a decent amount of people in the audience that just want to see that type of movie, you know? Like, for Uncharted, they want to see a swashbuckling treasure hunt movie. For Assassin's Creed, maybe they want to see some like old school Italian, just cool killing shit.
Which is but that's what I'm. But I'm thinking that they want more than that. They do want more than that because these movies haven't been the trendsetters,
right?
Because that's all they've had. Like Seth is saying, like, you know, story construction is not always the most important thing, especially in AAA games.
It might be really fun to, in, say, Assassin's Creed, kill 500, you know, Borgias with your hidden blade. It might not be super fun to watch that happen on screen.
Exactly. So I think there is something lacking. People want more.
Right.
And to get them addicted, you know, get them in. But, you know, what that's going to be, even looking at the upcoming slate of video game movies, I have no idea. Can't say for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, moving on a little bit here, let's talk about what games do we think would make good movies or good TV shows. And callers, if you have any ideas, feel free to call in at this part and contribute. I personally, one of my favorite games ever, and definitely my favorite game of the past 3, 4, 5 years, what have you, is Ghost of Tsushima, which is a PS4 game in which you are a samurai who is forced to abandon their samurai principles and engage in like a more guerrilla, like ninja-style warfare in order to defeat Mongol invaders on the island of Tsushima. And it is just an incredible game. It's incredibly cinematic. They literally have a setting called Kurosawa mode that switches it to black and white with film grain. And it is just, I mean, I don't play in Kurosawa mode. I do switch the language to Japanese and turn subs on not because I'm a weeb, but because it is legitimately better. And I think that game would make an incredible movie, but I don't think you could improve on it. It's already amazing. Oh, Phil is shouting out Portal in the chat. Nolan, I assume you've seen the Portal short film.
Yeah, but
it's
like that
fan made. It's not official, I believe, but it is really good.
it is. It's very good, but it's also 100% proof, actually, that I don't think you could do a Portal movie.
How do you mean that?
Because it's like what the story of that Portal short is mostly to show off the mechanics of Portal,
Right.
which only matters for how much of a movie.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I could get behind. I mean, maybe if it could be like Saw combined with 2001: A Space Odyssey, perhaps.
Or like the movie Cube, which is about people breaking out of these, yeah, but then again, is that actually what people who like the game Portal want?
No. Portal is
not
like
at all.
quirky puzzle solving. It's not crazy, gritty, dark, terrifying stuff.
If he had a good one, he said a Red Dead Western. A Red Dead Western could definitely be in the cards. I could definitely see Netflix
like,
going for a TV show on that one.
No,
too.
I could see that getting made 100%, but that's kind of like Ghost of Tsushima, where I'm like, how do you improve on what is essentially a perfect game?
I mean, the thing is, artistically, I see what you're saying, but from a producing standpoint, you would be like, perfect. That's
Right.
exactly
right.
Yeah, you would just be like, I don't need to.
From an economic standpoint, it is just easy cash.
It should be, which is why it's so fascinating that it hasn't.
That they
been.
keep
So-
dropping the ball. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I don't know. It's a really interesting topic. Other games I think would be interesting. There's allegedly a BioShock movie in the works, but there has been there's a famous
Along the lines of the Uncharted movie being in development hell for years and years and years.
There's a famous script written by John Logan that you can find. I can't find it, but you can find people reviewing it. Apparently, it's wild.
For BioShock?
Some Quantic Dream games
Now,
like Heavy Rain.
Hold on. Real fast. BioShock is the like Ayn Rand dystopian nightmare.
Okay, it's a shooter game in an underwater city, but yeah,
right,
sure.
but that's like the world of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. See, that could make an excellent movie. There's tons of stuff going on in that like you said, it's basically a shooter, but the world is so developed and deep and based on, literary or political concepts that have enough substance to carry a movie.
Yeah, I actually think that one, I was thinking about this before. You could do a BioShock movie, absolutely. That one I genuinely do think would be better if you don't follow the storyline of the game at all. You show the downfall of Rapture in like a mini series. Netflix, I could totally see doing that, and I actually think that would be a good medium for it, honestly.
Mini series?
Yeah, good. Like for the downfall of Rapture. Yeah, as an
Rapture
associated
being
the underwater city.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so in that regard, also like I said, the Quantic Dream games, Phil knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, Heavy Rain. By the way, these games suck. Detroit Become
They're
Human.
so bad.
They are so bad because that's a classic example of a guy who's like he's trying to write movies. Yeah.
So the reason I'm doing that, guys, is because in Heavy Rain, which Nolan has a source that says is scheduled to be a movie, it's slated up to be a movie. It's about a dad who probably killed his kid. It kind of reminds me of Mystic River a little bit. But basically he like walks around for the level that Nolan, Phil, and I got stuck on at least. And he just screams, Jason! For like nonstop repeatedly until you beat the level, which we couldn't do. So it's stuck in my head permanently.
It's more that they decided on these takes where he's like, Jason! It's like, like a worried father looking for his missing child.
Right.
Jason!
Jason!
Anyway. I don't blame the voice actor. You did
right.
a bang
No.
up job.
Hey, look, it's like Scream 5. Look, they're reading the parts as written.
Yeah, they're doing their job, and I don't
doing
blame
it the
them
best
at
they
all.
can, and it's on the director for accepting those takes.
Okay, I got two more real quick. and
All
they're
right,
related.
2 more, and then we're going to trivia.
Okay, so Resident Evil 7 and
All
Until
right.
Dawn.
Is
So
Resident Evil 7 is post Raccoon City. I don't really understand how the plotting of these movies works.
I don't know. Who gives a shit? Doesn't matter.
Right.
It's because
It's
Resident
zombies,
Evil 7.
and there's some wild shit going on in the end.
No, Resident Evil 7 in itself is a video. It's a reboot of the series. Like they do a take on
Wait, what?
They do a take on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wait.
Like
You said it was a reboot of the Resident Evil series. How is Texas Chainsaw Massacre figuring into this?
Okay, so the Resident Evil 7, the game, Biohazard, has you as a person going into like a house in the middle of a swamp in Louisiana.
Okay.
It's gross. You get it. You know, like, and there's a lot of chainsawing. It's very clear. So
Right.
I think that in terms of horror, if they give it a bigger budget and some stuff like that, it could work. And then Until Dawn, another one of those FMV multi-choice kind of games, based on a bunch of horror movies. Pretty popular. People like it. Also, gotta say, I mean, you know, if you like Scream but way dumber, like I know you did last summer too, level quality.
Okay, I haven't seen the second one. I do love that first movie though.
The second one is decidedly not as good, but
I mean, it's not like the first one is high art.
No, but the first one. Okay, go watch the second one. You come back. It's definitely worse. They go to the Bahamas and shit. It's weird. Anyway, so that's what I got.
All right. Well, you know, it's 11:45 now. I think we should probably move on to trivia and try to get out of here before midnight.
Alrighty.
But thanks, Nolan. I mean, this has been a great talk on video game movies. I'm excited to see, like, as we talked about earlier, kind of as an extension of the IP arms race that we're seeing right now in Hollywood, where everybody's optioning every book that anybody's ever read, you know, optioning podcasts, optioning any sort of media that has a story attached to it, video games included. I think we're going to see a glut of these sort of movies in the future. And I think it's, you know, there's a way to go about it, and there's a way to screw it up.
And nobody's done it yet, so it's, you know, open market.
Okay, you didn't see Uncharted, Mr. Hitler Youth Rally, so...
You're right. I was doing God's work.
He was preoccupied promoting white rights. But... yeah, I think Uncharted is a step in the right direction. I will say that. I wouldn't say it's great or even necessarily very good, but it is solid, and for video game movies, that is an achievement.
Yeah. Well, remains to be seen.
Yeah, I guess we'll see in the coming couple years here how all these work out. Now, I see God of War written here. Is God of War an adaptation that is coming out? Is that that optioned, or is that just potential?
No, that I just think it's in that Sony camp. It's
Naughty, or is it Naughty Dog or no?
No, it's not. It's not. But it's in that Sony super hyper cinematic. It's all one take. The game
PlayStation exclusive, like all the best games are.
Super cinematic. Anyway, so
Sony,
that's
sponsor
just another
me.
one.
Sponsor me, Sony.
Yeah.
Well, all right. That does it for video game movies. Now, it's the moment that you have all been waiting for, trivia. Welcome to the very first game of Twitch Taboos. In this game, I will name 5 video game titles, and you have to tell me whether or not it is on Twitch's list of banned video games. If you get all 5 questions right, you could win tonight's swear jar. That's right. Anytime I use a swear word, a quarter goes into the swear jar. Right now, we are at 30, which is $7.50. That number is only going up. So that's about enough for a meal at your favorite fast food restaurant, including Chick-fil-A. So, you know, we're a little bougie here. We go to Chick-fil-A. It's like that. So if you would like to play Twitch Taboo, you can go ahead and call in. And first caller gets to play. I'm going to play a little music while we wait.
This is Deepfake Kevin Harlan, and you are listening to Fuck It, We're Doing It Live. We're doing it live.
Oh, call incoming. Here we go. Trivia time. Who could it be?
Call from
Sarah Jane and Will.
To accept, press 1. To
All right,
send
we have a partner, a team playing trivia tonight. This is a first on Fuck It, We're Doing It Live. Hello, Will and Sarah Jane. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. How about you?
Doing good.
Doing all right. Running the show.
Hoping to win some $7.
Going a little long. You guys are up to $7.75 now. So that feels pretty good, I bet. All right. Well, here's how the game works. I'm going to name 5 video game titles, and you have to tell me whether or not this game is banned from streaming on Twitch. Now, none of these games will be rated adults only, because all games rated adults only are automatically banned on Twitch. But I will be naming some from the list of games that are either not adults only or are completely unrated and are also banned on Twitch. So you're going to have to tell me, these are going to be 5 yes or no questions, and if you get all 5 right, you could win tonight's swear jar, currently valued at $7.75. If you get the majority right, if you get 3 right, you can shout out your Venmo on air. Does that sound good?
Yes. Does yes mean that it is banned and no means that it's not?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Ready.
All right. Our first game, titled Porno Studio Tycoon. Now, is this game banned on Twitch?
No.
Is that your final answer?
Final answer, no.
Incorrect. Porno Studio Tycoon is in fact banned on Twitch. All right. It's okay. You can still, you're out of the running for the swear jar, but you are still in the running for your Venmo shout out here. That's all right. You can get there still. All right. Number 2. Here's the video game title. Is it banned on Twitch? What's under your blanket? Banned on Twitch?
Banned.
Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. No.
Is that your final answer?
No.
No, it's not your final answer, or no is your final answer?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wait, yes is your answer, or no is your answer? Or no, yes is your final answer? Or yes, no is your final answer?
You're the speaker.
Yes, no is my final answer.
Okay, so no is your final answer.
That's true.
So you're saying that what's under your blanket, exclamation mark, question mark, is not banned on Twitch.
I'm not setting high standards for Twitch.
So you're saying this is not banned on Twitch?
Correct.
That's correct.
All right, well, you're wrong. It's banned on Twitch. So, all right, well, that's okay. You know, you'd already lost the swear jar. Now you have to get the next 3 questions right to, figure out, is it banned on Twitch? You can still shout out your Venmo later if you get the next 3 right. So, going into number 3, the title of number 3, you have to tell me whether or not this game is banned on Twitch. Which trainer? That is which trainer?
Well, no, I don't think that's banned on Twitch.
Good God. How are you ever going to answer yes? Because that is also banned on Twitch. You are incorrect.
All of these are banned on Twitch.
Yes, all of the following 3 are banned on Twitch. Porno Studio Tycoon, What's Under Your Blanket, and Which Trainer are all banned on Twitch.
I guess I had too much faith in the...
All right, let's just, you know what? It's okay. If you guys get these next 2 right, I'll still let you shout out your Venmo because I'm just that nice of a guy. All right.
Okay, well, I think I know what I'm going to answer.
All right, well, we will see about that. Number 4, is this game banned on Twitch? The title of the game is Genital Jousting. Is this game banned on Twitch?
Yes.
I think that yes, genital jousting is banned on Twitch. Final answer.
Correct. Genital Jousting is, in fact, one of the banned games on Twitch. I don't know how it's not rated adults only. Maybe it dodged the whatever the game rating board is called, but it is not banned, or it is, in fact, banned on Twitch. All right, number 5 here. If you guys get this right, you can shout out your Venmo on the air. Number 5, the title is Suck My Dick or Die. Is this game banned on Twitch?
What? Dick or die?
Suck My Dick or Die. I'll give you guys 50 extra cents for that one. Or not you guys, but in the swear jar. So the title of the game is Suck My Dick or Die. Is this game banned on Twitch?
No, it's not banned.
Against Will's advice, I'm going to have to go ahead and say that yes, I think it is banned on Twitch.
You are correct, Sarah Jane. Every single one of the games that I asked about is in fact banned on Twitch. Porno Studio Tycoon, What's Under Your Blanket, Witch Trainer, Genital Jousting, and Suck My Dick or Die are all in fact banned on Twitch. Now, you didn't win the swear jar, but you can still shout out your Venmo, Sarah Jane. Not Will, because all your guesses were wrong. You led her astray. She could have done well. But Sarah Jane, if you want to shout out your Venmo on the air, now is your time. Go ahead.
Okay, to all 9 of you, my Venmo is at Sarah Jane 0. That's at SARAJANE 0.
Is that the number 0 or the word 0?
That's the number 0.
All right, guys, that is
Spelled out
SARAJANE and then the number 0. If any of my super duper rich listeners, such as Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, all of whom are avid listeners of this podcast, if you would like to send my sister, like, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000, whatever you have on you, you just go ahead and send it to SARAJANE, all lowercase, and then the number 0 on Venmo. Is that correct?
That's the one.
All right, well, thank you for calling in and playing Twitch Taboo Trivia. The swear jar, as a result of this very dirty game, is now at 34 quarters, which is $8.50. You can join us next week to try to win that. We're going to be playing Top 25 Dead or Alive Fetish Trivia, where I name a fetish and you have to tell me whether or not it's top 25 based on American search results. And you can also join us next week because I'm going to be bringing back my friends Nick and Matthew Leslie. We're going to do another episode of The Unwatchables, in which we watch movies that are beyond terrible, sometimes legitimately offensive. I had to veto a Bill Cosby movie known as Leonard Six for this episode, just to give you an idea of how unwatchable we are talking. I haven't decided exactly what we'll be watching, but our options include movies like Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh, #horror, and of course, Frankenpimp. So that'll be a great talk. Make sure to tune in live on Twitch next Tuesday at 10 p.m. Central. That's all we have for you tonight. Thanks for tuning in, guys, as always. Big thanks to the chat for being super active tonight. Shout out Willie, shout out Seth, shout out Jacqueline, shout out Phil, shout out Nolan, shout out Willie again. Just big ups to the chat, guys. You guys were great tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next Tuesday.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Just a couple of guys code monkeying around.
They call me One Take Jake.
Where is all the HN gone? What happened to the storm? Where's the guys with Nazi flags who fight Satan's cabal? Isn't there a white knight to protect from the vaccine? Late at night I toss and turn and dream of letter 17. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you. Lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you. Lost without you. Whoa, whoa,
Trump's the worst.
I heard about the deep state, tried to tell my family. They told me I was crazy and they blocked my Twitter feed. I went back on Parler, turned on No Way in, refreshing 8chan until I heard from Q again. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without Q, lost without Q. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without Q, lost without Q.
I know what God wants of us and what Jesus wants, and it's what Trump wants, and it's what the patriots want.
He said to take the test up, but he never went to jail. The shaman got arrested and he isn't making bail. JFK Jr., he never showed his face. Maybe that's because he was dead in the first place. It's been a year now since January 6th. I took a shit on Pelosi's desk. Now I'm in ADX Florence. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa, I'm lost without you, lost without you. Whoa, whoa.
QAnon is an American far-right political conspiracy theory and mass political movement. It is centered on false claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals known as Q.
Hello?
I don't even say the N-word anymore, right? What? The N-word. It's a dirty word. Now I have my own words instead of the words that I know the algorithms are going to shut me down.
You tell us what word is used for which, we're not going to shut you down.
Mask, the face diaper, vaccine, the jokey pokey, and election fraud. The obvious fraud. See, people don't understand everything that we've learned from day one has been a lie. We never were on the moon. No, I don't think the Hitler situation is as bad as they said it was either. That was the Rothschilds, that was the Rockefellers. Those are naughty words in social media. I got banned forever on Facebook.